the third one, Dukkha, Samudaya, Nirodha. Today we have to explain the meaning of this word used by the Buddha. In fact, the real meaning of this word, Nirodha, means free from sufferings, free from unsatisfactoriness, free from disturbances, physically and mentally. The meaning of this word, Nirodha. So, from the Buddhist point of view, this is the aim or the purpose of our life. If there is any purpose, this is the purpose. What is that? We can understand this very easily when you think unbiasedly. That means throughout our life, from our birth up to the last breath, we struggle, we fight, we work, we think and plan to get rid of our problems and worries and sufferings and unhappiness. So we have devoted our whole life, physically and mentally, to fight, to avoid, to overcome, to stop all these existing problems. There is no argument, it is true. When we take certain items like eating, drinking, taking exercise, sleeping, working to earn something, why do we want to do such thing? We say this is for living. Living means fighting for survival. We are facing thousands and millions of clashes, conflicts, threats. So what we are doing is try to find out something, some method to avoid, to get rid of them. Now when we are hungry, we take food. Hunger is a sickness. Food is medicine. So we take this as we enjoy our food. Actually there is nothing for us to enjoy. When you take some other medicine for your sicknesses, you never say, I enjoy my medicine very well. But for this particular thing, you say you enjoy. There is nothing to enjoy. Jigaccha parama roga. Here the Buddha is saying, Jigaccha, hunger. Parama roga, amongst all the other sicknesses, that is the highest, most dangerous sickness. So how can we say that we enjoy our food? everything. Why do we want to sleep? Morning when we get up, we say, last night I enjoyed my sleep. There is nothing for you to enjoy. You have taken some sort of protection, precautions, and given some sort of remedy for your problem. There is nothing to enjoy. So now you can understand, whatever we do, in everything, we can find some sort of method we adapt in order to avoid, to stop, to overcome, to get rid of our existing problems. That is called living. So by realizing this situation, the Buddha explained, actually there is no reason for us to suffer forever like this. It is a big battle. Although we can understand that it is a losing battle, we never give up. We fight up to the last breath. In the end, we surrender. We cannot overcome our problems, but the problems overcome us. Surrender. By knowing this, the Buddha says, be wise. Try to find out a method to see the end of all your problems. Otherwise, you never gain peace, happiness, or satisfaction in your life. Whatever you do, whatever you gain, what sort of things you adapt in order to enjoy your life, you never gain satisfaction. Always you grumble, you criticize, you accuse, you blame, you worry. These are the things you have to continue forever. This is the nature of life. Then, earlier, physically and mentally, when we are strong, we don't feel very much. We don't take seriously. That is why young people says, all right, let us enjoy our life. Later, when we grow old, then we can practice religion. Life is uncertain. There is no time limit for that. Today we plan so many things, and nobody knows what will happen to us tomorrow. Ajjeva kiccang atappang ko janya maranang sue. Here the Buddha say, whatever you have to do, you must try to do it today itself. Don't postpone, thinking that I can do it tomorrow. Ko janya maranang sue. Who knows? Tomorrow you may die. This is the nature of life. Uncertain. To understand this situation, the nature of life, I can give a simple example. We dig a very big pit hole here on the ground. Go on digging and digging and digging, say up to 100 feet. Then we put some boiling charcoal at the bottom, one layer, very hot. After that, we put a ladder inside and ask people to go down step by step. At the beginning, they say, okay, no problem, we can go down very easily. They don't feel it. After reaching the middle of the ladder, that means about 40 to 50 feet, now then they get little bit of heat from the bottom. Then slowly they say, yes, I feel uneasiness, sweating. That means when we reach middle age, some indications appear. More sicknesses, weaknesses, physically and mentally. And appearance also start to change. Hair dropping or changing the color, grey or white, eyesight, vision, teeth, hands and legs, strength. But we cannot stop. We must go down. So when you go further, down and down, then we feel very hot, very intolerable now. That means we have reached to the, say about 60, 70 feet. We are nearer the burning charcoal. Then we shout, we complain, we cry. Burning, burning, very hot, very hot. Try to escape, cannot escape. But cannot stop, must go down. Then, in the end, drop into the burning charcoal. That is the end of the journey. This is the nature of our existence, nature of our life. Whatever we do, whatever we gain, however we enjoy, we are marching step by step, marching towards our grave. It's one-way traffic. By realizing this situation, according to their respective religions, people try to reach their final goal. For that, they say final salvation. Why do they want to use the word salvation? That means every religion accepts that this life is miserable. This life creates suffering. This life is uncertain. That is why they use the word salvation, to save our life. Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, every religion used some sort of word. idea is salvation because of this suffering. So there is no argument amongst various religions. Every religion accepts the life or the existence creates suffering. Then the final target or the final goal, when you analyze this, we can see the different approach, different analysis, right? Those who believe in God, who created everything, strongly believe that they can go back to their Creator and everlasting happiness, immortality, permanent happiness, they can experience there. This is their belief. Another religious group also maintain the same attitude. God created our soul, and this soul is going on transmigrating from life after life. When that soul is completely purified, no more dirt in our soul, the Creator or the Brahma, Mahabrahma, again take back. That is called union with Brahma. Final goal, salvation. So according to some other religion. Then there are some others who do not believe in God or creation, interpret in this way. They say, all these living beings are the unit that which come down from the universal consciousness. Universal consciousness is not a God. It is a force, intelligent force. So we are living, working, talking, doing everything according to that consciousness. So this is not our own consciousness. More or less puppets. We are puppets. The controlling power is there. So after our death, the mental energy that we maintain as our consciousness again absorb, go back to the same universal consciousness. That is the final goal. Intellectuals, those who do not believe in God, introduce this belief. Then there are some others who do not believe in God or religion. They say, this life is actually come into existence accidentally. This is coincident, not planned, not organized. So when all these existing elements and energies accidentally join together as a bundle, this life existed, appeared, remain for certain period according to the gravity or the energy, the combinations of these ingredients, then disintegrate, dissolved, disappear. There is nothing to remain. There won't be another life, another existence. There is no such thing as heaven or hell or this or that. So as long as we live, we must know how to make use of this life to enjoy. Beyond our grave, there is nothing. This belief is very common, I think, all over the world. Now you can understand how they analyze different religious groups and some intellectuals and scientists and materialists. Now let us come to the Buddha. What is the Buddha said? The Buddha also did not accommodate the age-old belief that human beings and all the other living things are created by a supernatural living being. He does not believe that. He also did not accept that life come into existence without any cause. There must be a cause. So the scientific or materialistic views never agree with the Buddha's statement. Because many of those scientists have no religion, no God. They have discovered wonderful things. Some are agreeable with the Buddha's teaching. Then, what is the clear picture from the Buddhist point of view? The Buddha also agrees with those who interpret life is a combination of elements and energies. Yes, it is true. But all those existing elements and energies cannot produce a life. To produce a life, there must be two kinds of energies which are mental energies, internal energies, not external energies, not cosmic energies. Without these two internal mental energies, life never comes into existence. All these plants and various other living things, they are under living things. There you cannot find these two internal mental energies. But all the other energies, elements and life process also we can find in plant. That is why we say plant life. But two energies are missing there. What are these two? Chitta and Kamma. these two energies are missing. What is Chitta? Four mental faculties I have explained, I think, earlier. The nature of our human mind, how we divide into four groups. The nature of our mind. Activities of the mind. Function of the mind. Duties of the mind. One section. That is pure mental energy. Just like electricity. We cannot see electricity. We cannot see atomic energy. But energy exists. In the same manner, we cannot see mental energy. No one can see mental energy. Nobody knows where it is in our body. It is not located either in our brain or in our heart or somewhere else. It is an energy. Electricity is not located anywhere. But exists. The next one is karma. What is karma? Action committed by the mind, the words, and physical body. Either with polluted mind or with pure mind. There are two ways. Whenever we do certain bad things with polluted mind, we create bad karma. That is called akusala karma. When we do certain good thing with good intention, that is called good karma. And now you can see the difference between good karma and bad karma. Then who creates this karma? Mind. Man cannot create karma. A woman cannot create karma. Mind. So mind is responsible for that. Then this will become very important energy for our existence. When these two energies, mental energies, join, cooperate, or combine with many other external energies, cosmic energies, elements, then the life comes into existence. Otherwise, there is no life. And now we can see the difference. How to analyze. How different religions interpret life and the final goal or the salvation. How materialist or rationalist, those who have no religion, interpret and explain. Then the Buddha's attitude and his explanation about the nature of life, how life comes into existence, and how the continuity, how life process and mental process continue like waves, exactly like waves. So when you go to Port Dickson or Mori, sit down at the sea beach and see how these waves goes up and goes down. Again goes up and goes down. You can see this, like this. But we create our own imaginations, not knowing actually what is happening there. We think the same water goes up and goes down, and again the same water goes up and goes down. No. Energy in between push this water. Then once the existing water goes up, because of the weight, this one goes down and the energy again upward. So the life process, mental energies also work exactly like this. That is how we continue this life. Binding factor, energy, continue this without allowing to break mental process and life process. This is the nature of life. Now, the Buddhist concept of salvation. All of you know. All the other religions talk about heaven or paradise. They believe that they can enjoy their everlasting, unchangeable or eternal happiness, satisfaction. This is a belief. When we analyze the nature of existence, whether this life in human world or animals or spirit or ghost or devas or brahmas, life is life. By taking different shape, life exists. Who is behind? Who changed the formation? Karma. Karma is the culprit. Now today we exist here as two-legged living beings. So we are called human beings. As human beings, we have certain duties and obligations and responsibilities to maintain our dignity and name. If we abuse our human dignity, what will happen? After our death, we won't get the chance to be born as human beings again, because we abused our human life. Then what will happen? These two-legged ones next time can become four-legged ones. Who does this? Karma. You cannot blame anybody. Our own karma. You cannot escape from this by praying to anybody. any god or any Buddha, you can pray and worship. You cannot change it because you are responsible for it. Then, after reaching or attaining heavenly bliss in heaven or paradise, many people believe that they can enjoy their life forever without any changes. According to the Buddha, this is a daydream. This is an imagination. This is a belief people maintain to satisfy their craving. That's all. They introduce this to console their craving. Because a craving needs to remain without dying. You don't like to die. I don't like to die. If I say I don't like to die, it is wrong. It is not I who doesn't like to die. My craving doesn't like to die. My craving wants me to live forever. Therefore, they have introduced this heaven and paradise as eternal place where people never die. Then craving can satisfy. That is what we need. The Buddha says it is only a belief. Practically, it is impossible to remain anywhere without any change. Now see the difference. So heaven is not the final goal or eternal salvation from the Buddhist point of view. But Buddhism never says there is no heaven or no paradise. Yes, they exist. They do exist. Then what is the difference between this heaven and this human life? Why are we crazy to go to heaven? Everybody says, oh, they like to go to heaven. They do not know what it is and where it is. But they say they like to go. How it look like, nobody knows. The Buddha has given few parables. In one of the discourses, he says, many people go and pray and worship and do some offerings to go to heaven, thinking that they can go to heaven. They are just like some people who erect a huge ladder and going on climbing and climbing upward, thinking that they can reach the heaven, but they never reach. They have no target. They never reach any final goal. They are wasting their time. Again he says, those who want to cross a river, if any vessel or boat is not available to cross this river, what they do, they kneel down and pray, and holding some joysticks also. Pray and pray and pray, asking the other bank of the river to come and take him. The Buddha said it will never. By praying to anybody in this world, you will never get the chance to see the end of your suffering, to find out your salvation. Directly, the Buddha says. You can create only your imagination, that's all. If you really want to cross this river, instead of praying and worshipping and burning joss-stick, if the boat is not available, you can collect few pieces of wood and make a raft. Then you can cross this river. That means by using your effort, you can stop all your suffering. Not by praying and asking any favor from heaven or hell or anywhere. Impossible. Use your effort. Then, still I did not explain the difference between heaven and human life. This world where we exist is a mixture of pain and pleasure. Say 50% pleasure, 50% pain, suffering. You cannot enjoy your life without paying the price. You have to pay. Then how are you going to pay the price? Not in terms of dollars or money. To enjoy your life, you have to suffer. That is the way how you pay the price for your enjoyment. In order to enjoy your life, you suffer. After enjoying your life, again you suffer. Remember this. According to your own experience, you can understand it is true. You wanted to go and enjoy. When you get fed up, when trouble, problem, worries, difficulties are there, you come and grumble. Oh, see, I never knew it is like this. Any kind of pleasure that you try to gain, either beginning or the middle or in the end, there will be some sort of suffering. Either physically or mentally, definitely you have to suffer. After that, create enormous mistake because of that pleasure. To gain more and more pleasure, again we make more and more mistake. It is true. You cannot deny. You cannot say no. This is the nature of this life. Then, physically, the formations of this physical body is subject to any kind of suffering. Sicknesses, old age, worries, disturbances. Every minute, every second, we are experiencing. This is the formations, the nature of the formations of our life and the body. Whatever precaution we take, whatever we spend to avoid, we cannot escape. Whether we are good or bad, certain natural problems exist. We cannot overcome them. That is the price we had to pay for our craving for existence. If you crave for your existence, then you have to pay the price in terms of suffering, physically and mentally. You cannot gain this while leading a worldly life. Worldly life is subjected to all these problems. Now let us analyze the nature of heaven. Heavenly life, heavenly bliss that we are dreaming. In heaven, not only one place, there are so many places. Our living beings can experience more worldly pleasure than human beings. And burdens of a physical body in heaven is not like human being. Less burden. That means from sicknesses, from old age, they do not suffer like human beings. That is the nature of the formations of their life. Again, when they are going to die, because according to other religion they never die, but Buddhism never accepts this, impossible. When they are going to die, they also never suffer like human beings. Now we can see how people suffer before they are dead. How many days, how many months, how many hours, going and dragging and struggling, humans and animals. But devas are not like that. Their life is just like flame of a candle. Just disappear. After their death, there is nothing to remain as corpse or dead bodies. Nothing. Because the formations of their physical body has taken place in such a way, the combinations of elements, four elements, the combinations of four elements in their case is not like ours. We have more solidity, more fluidity, more heat in our body. That is why our bodies are visible, can see. Humans, animals, we can see. There are many others we cannot see. They do exist. Certain spirits, yes, they do exist, but we cannot see because of the formation, not like ours. Devas, Brahmas, lesser degree of solidity, fluidity and heat, this element. The life process, mental energies, karmic energies, all the other energies, you can find more in their life, in their existence. So after they are dead, just disappear like this. So sufferings also not like ours. And fear of death also not like ours. Because they do not know when they are going to die. Suddenly disappear. But in our case, we come to know a few years earlier. Oh, we are going to die. We are dying slowly we are dying. Then we worry. Now you can see the difference. That is why people are crazy to go there. Remember, It is not permanent, impossible for them to remain there forever. It is an illusion, it is ignorance, if they think it is permanent. Another disadvantage in heaven, although we suffer here physically and mentally, we have more facilities and privileges and opportunities to cultivate our life process, our mental process. Now what you are doing here? New Year Eve, instead of going out and eating and drinking and dancing and merrymaking and running here and there, shouting, what are you doing here? Are you mad? Young people, I think half cracked, all of you. This is the way how others look at. In their eyes, you are mad people. You do not know how to enjoy your life. Very unfortunate. I don't know what is wrong with you. See? Right. After spending your life in this way, calmly, quietly, peacefully, maintaining some sort of calmness in your mind, without creating anger, jealousy, grudge and greed and these so many dirty things in your mind, you maintain some sort of purity in your mind. Tomorrow or tonight, when you go home, when you go back, you feel very happy. And this happiness you can maintain every time when you think how you spent your time here, create or gives happiness. Those who go out and enjoy and drink and dance and do all sort of things, tomorrow morning when they get up, see how they grumble, how they complain. Headache and body ache and very hard and this and that. I lost all my income and all sort of, always complain, nothing but complain. Just now I told you, you cannot enjoy without paying the price for your enjoyment. And you sacrifice your enjoyment for the sake of happiness. To gain more happiness, you sacrifice your pleasure, because the pleasure is like this, fleeting nature. By knowing the futility, uncertainty of your pleasure, you wanted to gain more happiness that you can maintain for a long period or throughout your life. When you observe precepts, when you maintain your mind through meditation without allowing disturbance to come and dirty your mind, the happiness, the freedom that you experience at that moment, you can continue life after life. The pleasure they gain through this kind of thing, do you think there is anything for them to remain, to carry for the next world? How they drink, how they dance, how they enjoy, how they had sexual pleasure. Is there anything for them to carry, to enjoy in the next life also? Nothing. Like a dream. But what you gain by leading, this is called noble life, respectable life. By leading this kind of life, the happiness that you gain throughout your life, idha nandati pecha nandati kata punyo ubhayatha nandati, the sayings of the Buddha. Those who have accumulated this kind of meritorious deed, this is merit, this kind of merit, enjoy their life up to the last breath throughout their life. Not only that, after their death, hereafter, hereafter means when rebirth takes place somewhere, and there also they enjoy their life through the influence of the marriage, because the formations of that life also take place through the influence of this marriage. So you can continue this happiness life after life. Now see the difference. So in heaven, whatever they experience as pleasure is means to an end. That means after their death, nobody knows what will happen to them. Their fate is uncertain, because they have not accumulated enough good karma. They are in heaven. No facilities. Here you have. Although you suffer physically and mentally, by realizing the nature of this life and suffering, you can strengthen your mind to gain more experience. Then, while spending the merit that you have accumulated during the previous birth, you are also going on accumulating every day, doing some service to others without wasting, without enjoying only for yourself. And this is the advantage. As human beings, we are more fortunate than those gods or devas or brahmas. They can enjoy worldly life for long period, even thousands and thousands of years they can enjoy, but there will be an end. After that, nobody knows what will happen to them. This is the nature of heavenly life. So by realizing this, the Buddha has given us this advice. Be wise. Try to understand the nature of human life, the nature of animal life, the nature of ghost and devil's life, the nature of Deva's life, the nature of Brahma's life. Then you can see the difference. Then he says, no doubt, you have more suffering. You had to face more suffering. Even then, you are more fortunate than all the other living beings that exist in this universe. Why? You have more opportunities to cultivate. Life after life you can cultivate. Develop and develop and develop and develop until you reach the final goal, your salvation. But others who enjoyed their life thinking this is heavenly bliss, again come down. Again they have to start from the very beginning to go up. Many people cannot understand this. Then, the method. What is the method for us to gain, to reach this final goal of salvation? Now this is another big problem. Again we have to study different religions, what they preach, what they teach. Majority here in this world, the followers of various religions, teach us belief in God is enough. Faith in God. Your belief, your faith, more than enough. Your duty is to pray. worship, you will be saved. That's all. Very easy. Some others say, that is not enough. Now see the differences now. Belief in God is very important. But that is not enough. We also must do some meritorious deeds. So when we do some good deeds or meritorious deeds, God reward us according to our merits. So while praying to God, you also must do some meritorious deeds. Another religious group. Not bad. Then what is the Buddhist attitude? The Buddha's advice is this. Whether you believe in God or not, it is immaterial. If you like to believe, you can believe. No harm. It is not compulsory. It is not very important. And accumulations of merits by doing good deeds, yes, it is very important, but only by accumulating good merits, you cannot see the end of your suffering. You can go to heaven and enjoy your life for a certain period according to your merits. But you cannot stop your worldly suffering. Again come back. Then, what are we going to do now? So belief in God also not the most important thing. Accumulations of merits also not the important thing. Then what else? How many people have realized this? Merits are needed for us to lead a worldly, comfortable, happy, prosperous, healthy, long life. That's all. But all our natural suffering problems remain forever. Our merits cannot stop. Right? Then, what is the solution? As long as we maintain mental impurities, you can understand this. What is mental impurity? How many kinds of mental impurities are there in our mind? And why do we harbor, why do we develop these mental impurities? Because of our ignorance. Analyze in this way. We are ignorant. This ignorance support, nurture, develop all our mental impurities. Then this ignorance support two strong mental evil forces. Lobha, dosa. These are the culprits. Our craving for eternal life, craving for survival, craving for existence, craving for worldly pleasures, craving for sensual pleasures. When we develop this craving more and more and more, then anger, impatience, intolerance, unhappiness, unsatisfactoriness, then hatred, grudge. See, so many other evil forces also come after, followed by. Who supported them? Ignorance. Now see the way how the Buddha analyzes this. People cannot understand this. They always talk about God, or they are responsible for all these things. That is called ignorance. As long as we maintain these three evil forces in our mind, any amount of good merits, we accumulate life after life, there is no final salvation for us. Remember this. You can go to heaven and come back and suffer again, that's all. Then these three evil forces in our minds very deeply rooted, not easy to uproot, very difficult. Then the technique, the method introduced by the Buddha is this. To cleanse this mind, to get rid of them, we must give something to this mind. That is meditation. There is no final goal, no salvation without cultivating our mind through meditation. Merits cannot give. Sila, 8 precept, 10 precept, or 1000 precept also cannot. You can spend millions of dollars for your meritorious deeds, you never gain final salvation. Without spending even $1 or even 5 cents. If you can maintain purity in your mind, then slowly you are marching towards your final goal. Not necessary to spend anything. Reduce your anger, reduce your jealousy, reduce your stupidity, reduce all your evil forces, reduce your crazy attitude toward worldly pleasures and this and that. Maintain peace in your mind. Now you are on the way to your final goal. Slowly you are marching. This is the way how Buddha has introduced to gain final salvation. So the third noble truth is called freedom, liberation, salvation from all our physical and mental sufferings and problems and unhappiness. This is the method. Then what do we gain in the end as the purpose of our life? I told you at the beginning, if there is any purpose in our life, the purpose is to find out a solution to stop all our suffering. That is the purpose. Because we are struggling for that. We are doing everything, every day, every minute, to avoid, to get rid of our suffering. So it clearly shows the purpose of our living is to see the end of all our suffering. But we never see the end of our suffering by leading worldly life, by experiencing only worldly pleasures, by becoming slaves to sensual pleasures. Never. Then the method given or introduced, explained by the Buddha. Try to maintain pure mind, healthy mind. Then all the dirt automatically disappear from that mind. Then you become a very gentle, very noble, harmless, respectable, reliable person. After that, no more suffering. All your worries disappear. Unhappiness disappear. Your disappointment disappear. Physical pain, mental pain disappear. Then what else do you need? Is there any other purpose? That is the purpose. So this you cannot gain in heaven. You have to create by using your own effort, by worshipping to the Buddha or God. You never gain it. If there were many disciples who spent their life watching, admiring, worshipping to the Buddha almost every day without doing anything else, the Buddha had to chase them away. He said, this is not the way. You must try to maintain purity in your mind. Reduce the dirty thing from your mind. That is the thing you have to do as religious life. Oh, 1 hour, 15 minutes. Enough, I think. So talk will be the... Today I did not explain the method introduced by the Buddha to gain this final salvation. Just beating around the bush, I went here and there without approaching directly. So next talk will be on that subject. What is the direct method? Okay. Nirodha samapatyuto uttahitva nisinnassa. The Buddhas and Arhantas and Pacceka Buddhas spent at least 1 week Nibbanic bliss while they are living here in this world with this physical body. Nirvanic bliss usually we cannot experience because there are disturbances. Our senses, our mind, our physical body always create disturbances. To avoid all these disturbances, what they do, they cut off the 5 senses completely. They cut off their mental objects. Now the mind is completely free. The sound, the smells and external object cannot disturb the mind. Mind does not create any thought. After that, that free mind, they focus to experience complete freedom and salvations and liberations. That is called Nibbanic bliss. So they spend for 1 week. During that period, no food, no drinks, and no feeling also. Just like a dead body, no feeling. That is called Nirodha Samadhi. After 1 week, they get up, then become normal again. Now when we meditate, go into deep meditation, we experience little bit of this. Our problem is, although we stop external disturbances, our subconscious mind projects so many dirts. Because our storehouse of consciousness is not pure. Lot of rubbish is still there. Rubbish dump. That is why these meditators cannot experience real bliss or happiness. Take time.
Akasattha ca Bhummattha Devanaga Mahiddhika Punyantang Anumodittva Cirang Rakkhantu Loka Sasanang Ittavata ca Amhehi Sambhatang Punya Sampadang Sabbe Deva Anumodantu Sabba Sampatti Siddhya Devo Asvatu Kalena Sassa Sampatti Hetu Ca Phito Bhavatu Loko Ca Raja Bhavatu Dhammiko Idango Jnatinang Hotu Sukita Hontu Jnatayo Imina Punya Kammena Mami Bala Samagamo Satang Samagamo Hotu Yava Nibbana Pattiya